Morning, folks. How's it going? Everybody ready for some more SCL? I certainly am. My name's F. Dot, and then over there is Aggro. And today we've got a number of games, but we're going to start off with Eager. His team has had a very structured lineup for a long time, and they'll be going up against SoaR, a team that just recently has made some changes.
Into that duo lane to play the hunter role, and bringing in Mythic to play the mid lane. Mythic definitely a name in the console scene. He was on a top-level Challenger Cup team, plays a ton of ranked, high-level player. We'll see how he makes this transition into full competitive. I mean, like he said, he was in the Challenger Cup scene, but that's different. You know, it's not the same thing as actual SCL play, so we'll see how he meshes with a lot of veterans on the SoaR lineup.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that really works out. Obviously, Chapo going to stay in the jungle. That's probably the biggest point for SoaR fans at home, knowing that he's still going to be that constant there. Him and Brochacho really have become that sort of core. You were a big part of that as well. You, Brochacho, and Chapo made a big part of what this SoaR lineup has been. And with your leaving, it's really just up to the two of them. How do you think that Brochacho and Chapo can really direct this ship?
Well, when I was part of that team, the 3v3 fight was a huge part of our game plan. We wanted to take as many 3v3s as we could and then transition into the later game with Uzzy and the ADC rotating in. And whenever you've got kind of a rotating door in the middle lane, you're not getting that strong 3v3 fight, it's a lot harder to try and transition out of that and go to an entirely new game style is what they're really trying to do. So maybe with Mythic, they found their mid laner that they want to take those 3v3 fights with. We'll have to wait and see.
So one of the biggest things as we see the big changes here, Stormy's playing in the 100. What happened to Despair? I was loving this guy. A lot of people were, but he's gone.
I mean, from what I understand, is not the right fit for the team. You know, sometimes the mechanical skill is there, but personalities clash or whatever it is. Especially when you do have a strong personality like Chapo, and Brochacho's a strong personality as well. It can be tough to find the right sort of cohesion there. I think I felt very fortunate, I'm sure they did too, that our core, myself, Chapo, and Brochacho worked together so well, basically instantly. And that's just not always the case. It's tough to find the right teammates sometimes.
We'll see how Mythic fits into here. We're getting into picks and bans. SoaR versus Eager. We'll see how this one winds up. Eager on the left, that means they've got the first choice. So we'll see where they go. Keep in mind, this is the patch that has good old-fashioned reinforced greaves.
Let's get some long team fights, Tom. Let's do it. You're gonna be calling play-by-play forever this game, because with those reinforced greaves, it just elongates the team fight, you know what I mean? And especially with characters that are really strong on console, like Guan Yu, those already elongated team fights could feel like an eternity. So we'll see. If I'm banning here for SoaR, there's no way. Guan Yu, we've seen Guan Yu kind of get let through sometimes recently. Teams are starting to want to try and deal with it, but with these reinforced greaves being in the meta, you do not want these team fights to be really long, and Guan Yu excels at that. So the problem with that is that SoaR is left open Terra or Guan Yu. So there's the Guan Yu ban, but that does leave Terra open.
So two characters that have high sustain in a meta that is going to be very high sustain oriented. Terra will be selected by Eager almost obviously at this point. Terra and Fafnir seem to be the #1 picks overall if you don't ban them out. But like you said, in the current situation with the boots, Guan just a little bit too powerful. So Zeus and Thor selected for SoaR. This is as classic as SoaR gets. Chapo on the Thor, and whoever the mid laner may be on the Zeus.
I mean, I'm a little bit surprised to not see the Raijin there. Raijin seems to be the meta pick in the mid lane right now, especially among mages. So to see Zeus taken away instead of Raijin when he was open, a little bit surprising, but just so much pressure brought by Zeus all the time. The AoE in the jungle, all this kind of stuff synergizes very well with Thor, and Mythic's probably just a little bit more comfortable on the Zeus than he was on the Raijin.
It's all about the positioning as well. One of the big things that Raijin has that people have been exploiting a little bit more these days is when he goes up into that ultimate, he's extremely susceptible to return fire. We see that a number of times when Raijin winds up getting played, and so the Zeus is a little bit different in that regard.
Definitely a nice counter matchup for Zeus, because you can drop that lightning storm right on his head as he's up in those taiko drums, and that kind of probably dissuaded Delta Marine from picking it for Eager. We see them pick in Susano and Ravana, and then that leads SoaR to ban away the Raijin. Even though they do have that nice counter matchup, Raijin still, if he gets on a roll, a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah, he's just a pain in the butt. In all honesty, like
Yeah.
Raijin, he's got long-range poke, and honestly, he winds up with the majority of our early game kills. Those rotations back into mid lane right after the first mid harpies. He's able to just hit you with the Raijin and then snap on you with the blink forward. So that could be really problematic with those surprise ganks early on. But the opposite of early on is Xbalanque.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested to see what StormyRays are going to be playing, because whenever a player moves into a new role, they're going to find a god or two that clicks with them, and then they can just kind of use that until their god pool expands and they're comfortable enough in their role to really have that wide god pool that you need in the competitive level. But Xbalanque must have been one that Stormy feels comfortable just, you know, let me just sit here and farm, I'll chill out in lane, I'm not gonna box you, and then once we get to 25 minutes, I've got 4 items online, I can come in and really make an impact. Plus that ultimate, StormyRays has excellent communication, very good with the rest of the team and communicating when his ultimate's up, where people are, and if he sees a fight breaking out, he's been around long enough, he has the game sense to pop that Darkest of Nights and make an impact on the fight even when he isn't there.
He'll be going up against the Jingwei in lane. In fact, it'll be the Xbalanque and Ymir versus the Jingwei and the Terra. Jingwei and the Terra, one of the more ridiculous combos in Smite.
Yeah, very surprised that Ymir was able to lock in Terra, not have to immediately lock in Jingwei, and still able to get that combo online. We see a lot of teams on the SPL side, the PC side, really favor that Terra Jingwei lane, and SoaR had a chance to ban it away. Instead, with that threat of Delta Marine being able to play Soul as well as AirCougar, they banned the Soul instead, and now we've got AirCougar on this Jingwei. I mean, these are a ton of meta picks on the side of Eager. Vulcan, one of the top mid laners right now. Jingwei, the top physical ADC right now in pick rate. And then you've got Terra, Susano. I mean, this is a power-packed lineup from Eager.
Cougar just accidentally popped his beads.
Fat-fingered.
Now, the other team doesn't know that, and that's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
But that is a big deal against Ymir in lane. If Brochacho, you know, gets a freeze or something like that, he's going to be expecting AirCougar to use that purification, but he won't have it available. So if they recognize early, if Cougar's in a bad spot and gets frozen and doesn't purify, you almost think he must have hit him. He must not have him. So you can kind of play more aggressive and with that information on the next freeze.
And knowing the way that Brochacho plays, I mean, this lane is going to look for the early freeze to go ahead and try to strip those purification beads. And as soon as they realize that, you know, I think Ymir is probably the worst choice to even go into lane without purification against.
Really, really tough to go up against him without purification, especially if he goes blink. Luckily for AirCougar, he didn't go for the blink, going for the shell instead, but he's still going to have to be very, very careful. And I love the Ymir pick here, by the way. Just does so well in the jungle, up against Vulcan, up against Jingwei. If Jingwei doesn't have her ultimate, she's got nowhere to go up against that Ymir wall. And Brochacho, always on point with those walls. So I want to see SoaR really pick their fights in the jungle. That's where their fight's going to be strongest. With the Zeus, with the Thor, you want to group them up in the jungle, wall them off with Ymir, and then drop that lightning storm. So they have to be careful with where they're picking their fights.
And that's really a big deal for SoaR as far as the positioning, like you said, but also the timing. We want to see SoaR really go for the team fights where there's something to gain, when there's something to grab. Stormy's going to get stunned over here in the duo lane. Now, what do you expect out of these two? Like we said, the Terra Jingwei combo, very powerful, but with the change to Jingwei not having purification, does that tilt this early on?
No, not really. Myflin still is going to be able to dictate the pace. If he can get a good stun onto Stormy with the wall, it'll just spell a ton of damage. That knockup just going to be able to do so much. That chain CC on the side of Eager, and you can see AirCougar still full health. StormyRays about half, probably has a health pot ticking right now, but he's at the point right now, half health, you can die against this Terra Jingwei lane, even at level 3 and 4. Once he gets that root online, that 1.5 second root is just so powerful. And it looked like Myflin actually elected to level up his 2, the stun, which is a little bit curious. I mean, almost every Terra that I've seen levels up that third ability, that obelisk, because it brings extra sustain and extra damage off the root, and that's the combo that you really want. So Myflin may be doing a little bit of theory crafting. Maybe it works better for his playstyle, or maybe he just isn't quite comfortable on that character yet. He is still fairly new to the support role.
Yeah, just recently coming out of the jungle. Myflin had some good success there in the jungle. And really, he had the most success, in my opinion, on the gods like Hood and Bats and characters like Susano, characters that are good at setting up other players. So I think the transition from the jungle into the support role here works out. In general, we see junglers turn into supports and be relatively successful.
These are two, exactly. If you had to pick a role to swap, I would say this is probably the easiest role to change in and out of if you're on that end, going from jungle to support.
Mid lane, some trouble, and Xbalanque is going to pop the ultimate in response. Thor goes up. Jelly's about half HP or below. Chapo's going to miss. And because of the miss, he's just going to walk on by.
If Mythic had dropped the ultimate right away, as soon as Chapo blocked him off with a great wall, Jellly would have probably died there. But instead, Mythic a little bit late and then used the purification. Dwurst makes the rotation, and he's going to be in a ton of trouble.
The Vulcan ultimate going to wall off the defense, and Myflin winds up getting the kill against Mythic early on. Nice Vulcan ultimate to make sure that the enemy can't go underneath the tower. You get stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you walk into the Vulcan ultimate or you walk into the teammates.
Nowhere to go there for Mythic. Like you mentioned, a perfect pinch there by Ymir. And a huge rotation. 4 people in the mid lane, 3 minutes.
Ooh, Jellly wants to try and save his buff. Rather, Uzzy does, but it's not going to happen. Speed buff gets invaded on and stolen out under the noses of SoaR by Team Ymir. Myflin going to find a root and a stun onto Brochacho, but again, it's more just the zoning while his team looks for the blue buff.
And Brochacho does not want to give this up, but he really has to. It's 1 against 3 right here, and no one from SoaR is on the way. Gonna get some free poke onto Myflin, but it's basically totally inconsequential there. And that kill in the mid lane all happens because Mythic doesn't drop the ult. Because then Chapo goes up into the air, he has to walk into the jungle to try and follow up. Then he gets stunned out, and Dwurst is there in time. If he just drops the ult early there, none of that happens.
It's all the ripple effect. One small decision. What I liked about that, the huge rotation out of Ymir gives the blue buff over to the support, Terra. Anytime your support can get a blue buff, I think it's a good day.
He earned it, man. He walked all the way over there. That's a far walk.
Nice double tap, but not going to be too problematic until Jellly goes directly into Brochacho and pays for it with his life. Brochacho just smacks him in the face. Curious pathing and positioning. Chapo goes aggressive, looking for Delta Marine. Can't find it just yet. Walks around the turret, still trying to find the stun. Gets it this time around and walls off the Vulcan. That time Mythic drops the ultimate. A little bit of overkill, but either way the team gets to kill.
Now Myflin gonna be in some trouble, 1 against 4, but Dwurst is here by his own red buff. He wants to go 1v4, but he can't, he's Robin.
Look at the knockup on a Jing and the ultimate gonna confirm 1 kill. Dwurst gets the kill on a Mythic, again, brought to you by Cougs. Brochacho very low, but can't find the hits. Is AirCougar, and 2 players fall down. AirCougar with a beautiful setup, the persistent gust right up into the ultimate. Well done.
Really well played by AirCougar, and that's something you have to be wary of against Jing is even if you force her to back, she's gonna be there almost instantly, especially if you're fighting by the other team's back camps. I mean, she can land there without having to make any steps, and Cougar makes the most out of that rotation, making sure that he backs, gets a power spike, finishes his Devourer's gauntlets, and then immediately comes and cleans up because of it. I liked the play to go for Delta Marine, but you had to do it really quickly. Once you drop that ultimate, he's dead. Myflin comes around the backside, and he seems like a real tasty treat. We can just Ymir freeze him and kill him. He's only level 6, but he does have those reinforced greaves online. He is already tanky, and then it just takes too long. Dwurst shows up. Uzzy doesn't get there until later. Just a little bit awkward there from SoaR, staying a little bit too long.
Yeah, trouble in the enemy jungle there, and man, the 4-man knockup out of Jing. Like you said, it's important for SoaR to fight into the jungle, but one of the downsides of fighting into the jungle versus this Ymir squad is specifically that Jing. The gust sits pretty much not the size of the lane, but these little pathways in the jungle. It's the entire size.
Ygir's jungle fight is almost as good as SoaR's. Doesn't have the Ymir wall, but they've got a lot of AoE abilities that work well in the jungle.
Gold Shear going to be started here by Team Ymir. Xbalanque ultimate used to hide the offense coming out of SoaR. Still, Team Ymir gets the Gold Fury, but Chapo able to shut down Jellly. Not done yet. Stun going to miss, and that's going to make SoaR Gaming turn around. Myflin almost died there, but off the mark.
There's Jellly using that Wrath to great effect there. Yeah, you can see that he just hit all 5. A little conveyor belt over the top.
Nice little turnstile action there, honestly. Good freeze coming out of Brochacho. Going to be dashed away from, and trouble for Brochacho. Delta Marine confirms the kill.
Delta Marine just so good at positioning. We talk about it all the time with him. He picks up the double there, and he just stood so far back, waiting for his team to come to him, and that's what you have to do as Vulcan, because if you step one step too far, you're going to get Ymir walled, frozen, Thor walled, double tapped. I mean, you're just going to eat the entire kit from SoaR, but that time staying so far back, letting his team push forward, and then using the Earthshaker over the top, ends up picking up the double kill. And that's really big for him, because if you could accelerate that Vulcan late game, it's going to be very problematic. I mean, you see him right now, already level 10, up 700 gold up against the new mid laner for SoaR in Mythic. And once you get to that Vulcan late game, it doesn't matter if Zeus does a lot of damage, because he shouldn't be able to get close to the team fights. He doesn't have the same long range capabilities that a character like Vulcan has.
Yeah, you've got a little bit more wiggle room there on the Vulcan. And neither character, Zeus nor Vulcan, exactly safe, but Vulcan has a couple more tools in his kit, whether it's meatball on the feet or backfire otherwise, to really get himself out of trouble.
Not only the self-peel, like you mentioned, but Zeus has to be not super close, but fairly close to be able to use that ultimate. He's got to step up a little bit in order to follow up, whereas Vulcan can be in a different lane almost and use that Earthshaker over the top as long as he's got enough CC to lock them down. And on the side of Eager, they definitely have enough CC. The knock-up from Jing, the stun and the root from Terra, the knock-up from Susano, the root and slows from Dwurst. I mean, this is a heavy CC comp for Eager, but it's also a heavy damage comp. They just drafted really, really well this game.
Absolutely. I mean, Eager has, like you said, one of the more meta-efficient drafts right now that we've seen in a while, just everything lining up. And also, not for nothing, not only do they just pick gods that are numero uno, but they're also very skilled at them. Like we said, a couple of questions about Myflin's play, but seeing the Susano here is certainly something that Eager's very strong with. Myflin in trouble,
nice
walled
wall.
off perfectly. And a nice knock-up coming out of Jellly saves the life of the support. Honestly, without that Typhoon coming through, again, talking about the Susano on Jellly, without that Typhoon coming through right then, Myflin is dead. Absolutely.
Without a doubt, great recognition from Jellly, knowing that he has to knock up Chapo in order to just stop him from getting the basics needed to kill Myflin there. Now, Mythic again held the ult, but that time I understand it a little bit more. You don't want to blow 4 ults for one support.
Delta Marine gets one, and Mythic trades out in the mid lane while Jellly tries to chase players underneath the tier 2 tower.
Looks like he got some value out of that ultimate that time.
I think so. I think he got that one for sure. Jellly and Cougar going to look towards this tower, but more look towards Chapo, who's in trouble. Ultimate out of the Hunter.
Nice sanctuary.
Just barely going to miss. And Chapo has 10 HP, but chases the players off of his tower.
Not only did he get the ultimate out of AirCougar and defend the tower, but he also got the Wrath out of Susano there. And that's something that we mentioned around the time of the Gold Fury, but haven't really harped on enough, in my opinion, because they have such heavy CC on the side of SoaR. That is a really greedy pickup almost, getting that Wrath on Jellly, because that easy wall into an easy freeze, you're probably dead by the time you're out of that CC. Susano very slippery, but also very squishy, and if you can lock him down without purification, and Jellly willingly foregoing that purification here, could put him in a tough spot. We saw it on those left-hand Harpies. He got picked off very easily because he just got walled and then frozen, and then he died. But other than that, doing a fairly good job of staying safe-ish. Only 2 more levels to go until he gets that purification online.
I think also another reason is Delta Marine gets surrounded. Likely going to be a death for the Vulcan. Nice dash out of the ultimate out of the Ymir, but Mythic punches him in the back and gets another kill. 3 kills in total for the Zeus.
Great pathing there by Brochacho, just cutting off the escape. Didn't time the ultimate right to confirm that damage, backfired out of it, but it didn't matter. Just keeping it away, keeping Delta Marine away from his tower, away from the safe area was enough damage, and it allows Mythic to get the last hit, which is pretty important. You also want Zeus to get accelerated into that late game. Now he was 1-3, now 3-3, picked up 2 kills, mainly thanks to Brochacho. Brochacho sacrificing himself for the middle lane for the 2nd kill, and then for the 3rd kill there, making the play with the rotation. So now Mythic in a much better spot, gained about 500 gold back off that deficit, and he's only a level down now. So sitting in a much better spot, and I like the wing blade that he's probably going into here. A lot of slows on the side of Eager, and if you can just get that extra HP, get that extra movement speed, and live long enough to get 1 more ability rotation off, that can make all the difference in a mid to late game team fight.
And it's not just him, it's the rest of the team as well. Mythic doing all right, but still coming up, climbing out of sort of a deficit brought to you early on. Team Eager leading by about 2,500, 3,000 gold here as we're just past the 10-minute mark, 12 on the clock, and Eager has really been making use of these picks.
They have. Just like we mentioned right at the beginning of the game, if you could draft a 5-man team of meta picks, it would probably be this team that Eager has right now. And so they've definitely done a good job of pushing that advantage. They are up about 3,000 gold, have that extra kill in hand, but at the same time, SoaR's hanging around, and they've got a lot of wombo combo potential with the Zeus ult and Ymir in the jungle.
Nice freeze out of the Ymir, but he's all by himself till Chapo comes down from the sky. Delta Marine with a perfect sanctuary, making everybody go other ways. The ultimate out of Ymir, not going to find a target, but Delta Marine finds Mythic, and StormyRays finds Jellly. Dwurst and Myflin going to turn it around for 2 of their own, and it's going to be a 2-for-1 kill so far. Brochacho very low as well, likely to fall here. A couple more basics will do it. Wall stops one, but Myflin gets around it. Nice route onto Uzzy, who still finds a way out thanks to that Sun Wukong transformation. 4 players dead for SoaR. That's going to be a gold fury. Delta Marine confirms it. Delayed deicide. Everybody dead on the side of SoaR Gaming with the throwback team name.
Oh, yeah.
And Team Eager going to take the
EDC.
gold.
EDC, boys. Well, not going well for EDC right now. The former EDC squad, that is. They grouped up in the jungle and looked to fight like we wanted them to. But like we mentioned in passing, Eager's jungle fight is almost as good, if not better. We saw the Vulcan ult come down and devastate 2 people from SoaR, grouping up on that persistent gust from Jing. Myflin gets some good CC on multiple members of SoaR. Just so much damage in a tight area. SoaR has to get quick picks if they want to find those fights in the jungle, but it just took too long for them.
Yeah, it was troublesome as soon as Delta Marine got the really strong sanctuary off to get Chapo out of the mix, because as soon as Chapo had to turn around, then Delta Marine was able to make an impact in the fight. Chapo being chased down by a hunter, trying to find a way out. Beautiful play. Barely escaped, and AirCougar might pay with his life. In fact, he does. StormyRays finds one, but Dwurst takes down the mid.
Good help there for Chapo, who looked like he was in a bad spot, but all of a sudden they turn it around. Now Dwurst was able to pick up Zeus on the back end, and he's here to finish the fight in the front. Brochacho getting very low, rooted out, going to be forced to use the ultimate.
And that's a good play. He's going to ult right there and shove everybody off of it. And instead, they're going to turn around and look towards the solo lane Uzzy. But Brochacho doesn't fall there, and neither does his cousin. Chapo barely gets out of there with 5% HP.
It was a great meditation from Uzzy showing up, even though he's only 0, 1, and 2 right now, has made a couple nice rotations, and there, the meditation to save his jungler's life. And that, not the best case scenario necessarily for SoaR. They do lose their middle tower and they lose Mythic, but at least they pick up someone, and that someone is a big kill. That was a level 14 Jing, who up to that point had not died. So a big gold bounty there, and it was a big pickup for them. Just tons of gold that they picked up with that.
Again, Eager spent more time in SoaR's jungle than their own, I feel like. And here, the speed buff was taken. We do see Brochacho was able to defend the speed buff, but unfortunately the blue buff not the same. Dwurst able to steal that one away. Cougar ult, and that should be safety for the Jing and send the Thor back to base.
Getting that ultimate out from Jing is really important, because now he does still have that purification available, but if Chapo plays it right on a gank, you can definitely play around it. You can land down in the ult, he's gonna be forced to use the purification, and then you can immediately chase him with that double tap hammer and teleport to it, which should secure another kill, which would be great, especially if StormyRays can get it. He already has 2 kills on that passive, getting that 10 extra power, but we're getting to the point now where it's 16 minutes. Once we hit that 20-minute mark, that's where we're gonna want StormyRays to really start to make a big impact in these fights. But he's had a really solid game so far. Great showing for his first time in the competitive atmosphere in the Hunter role. Top of the damage charts for his team, 2, 1, and 2. Farming okay, a little bit behind, but that's to be expected when you've got a gold lead on the other side. Good job thus far from StormyRays.
And one of the things that I've noticed a lot has been the Xbalanque ultimates. Really good usage of them. Right as team fights start and right before SoaR tries to make a gank, you'll see that Daughters of Knights come out.
So here it looks like Eager wants to go hard in the jungle, but maybe a little bit of miscommunication. SoaR was nowhere to be found, except for StormyRays caught lazy backing under the tower, forced to use the sanctuary there on the dive by Myflin.
Nice knockup, but Delta Marine takes out Mythic with a huge backfire. Tons of damage coming out of this Vulcan already.
He's just been on point with every ult. I think he's only missed one, but it zoned Chapo away from the rest of his team and still hit Brochacho. He's just been, like we mentioned earlier, positioning far in the back, waiting for his team to go in and use the CC to set him up.
And there's some trouble underneath the tower as well. Uzzy barely gets into the ultimate, and now Delta Marine in some trouble. Finally uses the Sanctuary, and it's going to fall down. Ultimate out of the Ymir should zone out, but just barely off the mark. Uzzy can't find the stun, gets a slow on a Jellly, and Delta Marine's going to turn around and go on the offensive. But a dropped kill by SoaR as Delta Marine finds a way out. Brochacho gets a stun, but there's 2 kills for Eager one more time.
The backfire again, saving Delta Marine, using it to just ice skate out of that Ymir ult almost. Just, you gotta be wary of that cooldown. That cooldown is so low on that backfire. I think it's like 5 seconds, something very short like that. So you gotta be wary of that and pop that Shards of Ice early.
And there's more aggression. Mythic could fall here, but look at Delta Marine's positioning right there. Understanding that he's low HP and a snap decision could take him out. The tower dive comes out of AirCougar, and down goes the mid lane. Tier 2 tower being aggressed and will be taken by Team Eager here. So their 9K lead going to be pushed even further. It's 10,300.
So Delta Marine does have 3 deaths here. He has almost half the kills that SoaR have. But when you're Vulcan up against this wall comp that SoaR has, you're going to be the focus. And we've seen SoaR diving him heavily over and over and over again, committing a ton of resources to try and kill him. And for him to play it the way he has, for him to be at the top of the damage charts already, you don't expect your Vulcan to be top at 19 minutes. You expect him to be near the top, but you still, you know, your jungler Susano, your solo lane Ravana, we're still at the point where those gods are at their most effective. They're still in that mid to late game where they're getting these items online and they're really hurting the opposition with their base damage, as well as the beginning stages of the scaling of those abilities. But he's just been playing it so well thus far. The ultimate's over the top, and we've seen it. 7, 3, and 5, 16,000 damage already, and it's been Mythic that's been the focus of Eager a lot of the time. 7 deaths already, and it's significantly behind in gold. Over 2,000 gold behind Delta Marine now.
I mean, you just can't let the Zeus get ahead, and so a lot of attention has been paid specifically to the mid lane. If you look across the way at SoaR, I mean, you're not going to really shut down a Ravana, who really cares about that. AirCougar on the Jing way, just going to get out of jail. So, you know, look for the Zeus. That's certainly what Eager has been doing, being able to stop things. Eager going to start the Gold Fury here. And a little bit of trouble as the Thor comes down off the mark. And another Gold Fury. Number 3 goes the way of Team Eager. By the way, Chapo died.
He just showed up and disappeared immediately. Now StormyRays in a bad spot. Mythic picked off for the 8th time. Now StormyRays is going to fall. And I don't know if Uzzy's going to get out.
I'm not sure about that. Gets out of the root thanks to the ultimate. And Sun Wukong looking for a place to go. Team Eager playing all the options. There's aggression out of the Vulcan, but the bird form should let him get out of jail. And AirCougar's going to turn around and look towards the Phoenix.
At least Delta Marine finally missed an ult. I mean, trying to use it there to secure Uzzy wasn't on the mark. Wall from Brochacho just trying to stop Cougar from aggressing onto the Phoenix, but he's going to be the target instead. Another kill goes the way of Delta Marine. And that contention on the Gold Fury, probably not what SoaR needed to be doing there. They have the Wrath. They're going to be finding it either way, most likely. And instead of just giving it up and looking for farm elsewhere on the map, you instead lose 4 members, a left side Phoenix, and you still lost the Gold Fury.
I mean, this one right here, I think the writing's on the wall. Team Eager making this one look easy. They've got about a 15,000 gold lead. Excuse me. It's very rare to say 15,000 gold lead.
Especially at 21 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And this all happened pretty quickly. I mean, SoaR was in this. They were down about 2,000 gold not long ago, and they were looking fairly confident. I mean, we saw Mythic get a couple kills, even himself up at 3 and 3, and ever since he's gotten 5 deaths all in a row. Just not been enough. They haven't been protecting him enough, or his positioning hasn't been on point. But either way, it's been all about Delta Marine hitting these ultimates and really turning the fights for Eager.
And it's fun watching Eager. Eager's a team that I think their star player kind of lands on AirCougar, is just de facto the captain, the guy with the good smile, etc. But what's fun about watching Eager is that each day a different player can really step up and be that hard carry. And today we're watching Delta Marine do it, and you know, honestly, it's infrequently the mid laner for Eager, but certainly showing that he's more than capable here. Absolutely running this show.
I mean, it's been more and more consistent ever since he moved over to console. At the beginning of last split, I would definitely agree with you, and that was AirCougar, their de facto star. But ever since Myflin and Delta Marine have come over, Delta Marine just looks more and more comfortable in this middle lane. And for my money, he's the most consistent and the best mid laner in the SCL right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly really strong, and with a performance like this, I can't necessarily argue against you.
I mean, Cloud brings so much to the table outside of his gameplay. I mean, yes, the quirky troll attitude, but in all seriousness, he brings a lot of confidence and a lot of calling to that team. He's the primary shot caller for Most Wanted.
Fire Giant going to be taken here by Team Eager. No real contest coming out of SoaR. And here's the return fight. 1 player down, 2 player down, 3 player down already. And the team fight has just started and the game has just ended. 23-7 with 23 minutes on the clock. Eager take out SoaR with a kill per minute and look damn good while they're doing it.
It was just, like we mentioned, SoaR was looking good. They were back into it. They had a rough early game, had turned it around, chased down Delta Marine by their back left Harpies. And then Jing comes, hits a 4-man knockup, turns it, and then basically ever since that, it was just all Eager. And it's tough because you think about what the problem was. Vulcan. How do we counter Vulcan? We pick him off more. We draft a pick comp. That was the pick comp. You know, that was the comp that would shut down a Vulcan. They just didn't execute, and Eager did a great job of peeling for him. But overall, at the end of the day, that draft for Eager, probably just too strong. SoaR's got to do a better job of securing picks that are stronger for them than they are for Eager.
I mean, the Jing worked out really well, even outside of the lane. We didn't see much of that Terra Jing terrifying situation, because it was less about the laning phase and more just about grouping up and Jing being very powerful in the jungle. And as good of a game that we saw Delta Marine have, I felt on the other side for SoaRChapo was kind of missing. And like you said, when it comes to the pick comp, when it comes to a Vulcan middle lane, your Thor has to be active. We're used to seeing Chapo be numero uno. Here, not so much.
Had some good walls in the early game, but once he fell behind, just wasn't able to claw back into it. And that's the all-in type of play style that Chapo has. If he gets a lead early, you're in a ton of trouble. But if you're able to shut him down early, take some of his buffs, set him behind with a couple early kills, he doesn't have that. He doesn't lay the gas off. You know what I mean? He just keeps on going 100 miles an hour, even when he's a level down, 2 levels down, some items. And so we saw how that can kind of transition.
For sure.
Contesting a Gold Fury when they probably shouldn't have snowballs the lead even more for Eager.